Will the receivers be pushed up the draft board again tonight? Where will we see the first tight end double up? And which of these 12 teams will dominate this draft from beginning to end? Follow along with the live draft board tonight and watch our pick-by-pick analysis as we call the action from the 2022 FFPC Pros versus Joes Get 'em a Body Bag League 2 to see who's going to win a 2023 FFPC main event squad. We've got a great show for you. Ferrell, Elliott is here. I'm Eric Balkman. Stick around. Your high-stakes fantasy football hour starts now.
And the pressure, I've seen greater men than me, the lesson.
Broadcast live and heard around the world, you are now watching the most entertaining hour of radio on the planet. Welcome to the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com with your hosts Eric Balkman and Ferrell, Elliott. The High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour is your home for analysis from the best players in the world. And now, because no one else was available, here are Eric Balkman and Ferrell, Elliott.
Solace in the scripture, are we not all our father's sons? I became a man, nobody ever told me what a man was.
Thank you, Rob. Greetings and salutations, all you Balkaholics and Ferrelliacs. Welcome to the latest episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by MyFFPC.com. I'm your slightly above average host, Eric Balkman. My co-host is the definitive commissioner of fantasy football, Ferrell, Elliott. Tonight, we have the second of 6 extra special episodes for you. It's the 2022 FFPC Pros versus Joes Get 'em a Body Bag League number 2 draft tonight. We'll be covering it until its completion. Shout out to the chat room right now. Post any questions you might have with us or for us in there. The show is at HSFF Hour. I am at Eric Balkman. Ferrell is at J. Ferrell Elliott. The Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship is at KFFSC. You can connect with us on Facebook.com/HSFF Hour. And you can also email the show at the inbox, highstakesfantasyfootball@gmail.com. If you have any questions for us, send them in now. We'll try to get to them all throughout the program tonight. All the chat room questions, all the tweets, all the emails. Thanks to the hard work of our producer and mutual friend, Rob, and our audio engineer, my best friend, Bryce. Tonight, midnight Pacific time, is indeed the deadline for the 2022 FFPC main event early draft slot announcement. When you pay for your team in full, you'll get your draft slot on August 1st. And remember, if you already have a team, you're going to get $400 off each additional team that you add on. Square those balances away now at myffpc.com. Remember, for the first time in season-long fantasy football history, the FFPC is giving away 3 six-figure grand prizes as the first, second, and third place prizes and $1 million first place prize this year. $1 million bucks. Incredible. Let's talk about tonight's draft tonight, ladies and gentlemen. The 6 pro, well, let's go in order. Drafting first tonight, Huseyin Aksu from Fantasy Couch, Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hansen from the FFPC Joe Consortium. They are picking second. Todd Burroughs from the Run to Daylight podcast is drafting third. Michael App, I believe the 2016 Football Guys Players Championship overall winner, he's picking fourth. Jason Petropoulos from Broto Fantasy Football is drafting fifth. Michael Zuka, former guest of this program, big-time high-stakes player, is drafting sixth. Peter Overzet from Fantasy Life is picking seventh. Julio Fuentes, the FFPC Joe, is eighth. John Hansen from Fantasy Points and SiriusXM Fantasy Football Morning is drafting ninth. Josh and Laura Dern picking 10th. Curtis Patrick from RotoViz. Ryan McDowell from Dynasty League Football conjoining their 2 franchise websites together tonight to pick 11th. And, of course, another former guest of the show and future guest of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown, Brian Harris. He is picking 12th tonight. Bring in my co-host, Ferrell Elliott. Ferrell, welcome in. We are at night 2. I'm going to bring up the draft board right now. I think last night went pretty well, and we're in for another banner night. I just read off the pros and Joes. It's quite the lineup again.
Yeah, we got guys conjoining, which always is a good thing. And we've got, Balky, look at all those yellow stickers. Wow.
A lot of wide receiver ones. We saw it last night. We saw the wide receivers push up. We'll get to the first round in a second here and go over it. I don't want to delay here and bring in tonight's first guest who has been patiently waiting here. You know him from Sirius Fantasy Football Mornings on SiriusXM Fantasy Football Radio, Fantasy Sports Radio, the majority owner of Fantasy Points, and obviously an analyst for DirecTV's Fantasy Zone channel, a Hall of Famer in the Fantasy Sports Writers Association, and a working actor, which I wasn't aware of, but let's bring him in right now. At Fantasy_Guru, John Hansen. Welcome aboard, man. Happy to have you.
Oh, what's up, Eric? Yeah, that is true. That is technically correct. I'm a working actor, and I'm almost on the clock, but great to be here. And I got weird right out of the gate here with my first pick.
So let's So before we Guru, before we get to your second round pick, you went with CeeDee Lamb in the first round. So this was not something you plotted out beforehand?
I beg your pardon?
This was not so you didn't expect to take CeeDee Lamb in the first round?
No, I did.
Okay.
But it was more about the guy that I'm going to take, and just absolutely loving the combination here. And I'm going to take him right here. This is what I call gurific. I cannot quit, trying to be, ahead of the curve, and I like trying to get guys, at their breakout season. So I just took CeeDee Lamb and Javonte Williams. I mean, these two dudes are absolute studs. They're 23 years old. They're going to be featured for their team. I know Melvin's back. I don't give a crap about Melvin. So that's how I like to play. I like to be aggressive and be ahead of the curve.
You don't care about Melvin. And John, welcome to the show and welcome to the draft. A man with your resume and all your experience is going to draw a lot of attention tonight. I am on your IMDb page right now. I like to challenge all competing agents, no matter what field they're in. And I actually have an IMDb Pro account. And
nice.
And I'm going to contact your agent and tell him to dress this up because you're a handsome man. You deserve a picture here on your IMDb page. And, congratulations to you, brother. How has your involvement in fantasy football across all these media portals made the game more enjoyable for you?
I think the best way for me to answer that question is to talk about what I kind of set out to do when I was a young kid and, young man, which is to be actually in a broadcasting environment. That was really my dream. So it's a long story, but basically through fantasy sports, I was able to, have a broadcasting career. So, I mean, that's the number one thing that sticks out to me. I mean, among many things.
Well, congratulations to that and keep it up, sir.
Thank you.
John, so when you talk about drafting these breakout guys and getting them like in their breakout year, that's how you win fantasy leagues. Are we going to see more picks like this for you in Pros versus Joes tonight? Guys that you expect to break out this year and be ahead of the curve on a lot of these players, ahead of the other 11 competitors tonight?
Yes, because guys, I am so old that the only thing that keeps me engaged is just go balls to the wall, full DGAF mode. I don't give a rat's ass. I'm not afraid to lose. Let's go.
And that's the other thing. I mean, I think that's the mentality that you have to have in Pros versus Joes, because second place, as I said last night, you don't even get a pair of socks like the caddy day and caddy shack. Like you get nothing. So first place, it's all about that. Talk a little bit about, let's talk about CeeDee Lamb here, as long as you picked him at the 109. Obviously, no Amari Cooper this year, Michael Gallup coming off the ACL. Do you feel like most of the fantasy industry is sleeping on Lamb, given his talented quarterback, given his elite offense, and the fact that he could be a massive, maybe even a top 3 receiver overall this year?
No, I don't think we're sleeping on him. I think I like to talk about ADP. Good ADP is like, high quality polling data. And I think the markets were very aggressive on Lamb last year, and I was with them. And it's just one of those things that didn't necessarily work out. But I think he's priced very appropriately. Obviously, I just took his ass at 9.
Yeah.
And his ADP is 14. But again, that for me, that was about the Javonte Williams, CeeDee Lamb pairing. I figured I had a better chance of getting that done by going Lamb first, surprisingly, which it worked. So that was my route there.
John, do you feel like you're getting a discount on Javonte Williams because people, not you, but other people are worried about Melvin Gordon, and that's making Javonte Williams fall to you in drafts?
I do. Yeah. And I said that last year. The number one league we talk about on the radio show, for those who know, the ACI, I took him in the second round on the air in like 25. It was like 25 overall. People are like, what? I mean, it wasn't the greatest pick, but it's pretty good, down the stretch. So I think it'll be
football
something.
Guy slow draft that I started today. CeeDee Lamb was the number 10 player off the board, the number 4 wide receiver. So I think you and this gentleman are setting the new pace for CeeDee Lamb, John.
John, how do you, and I know you're drafting in that $2,500 Superflex Dynasty League, but when you're drafting redraft like this in a tight end premium format like the FFPC, how do you normally handle tight ends in this format? Do you like to get an elite guy early, or you kind of just let the draft come to you?
I'm just wired for some reason to seek out tight end sleepers.
Yeah.
Early in my career, I had a lot of success. You know, if I was fortunate enough to ever play in the NFL, that probably would have been my position. So I always felt like I was pretty good, a gauge of the talent there. So I guess I'm pre-wired. You know, I was like Antonio Gates was my breakout player in 2004. Jimmy Graham, I literally begged people, like, I'm on my hands and knees, please do this. And that year he broke out, whatever year that was. So I've had a lot of great success. So I just can't take them early. And I will say, I was a big Kelsey guy. Like, I literally was friends with Herbie Teope, as you may know, who covers the Chiefs. The second year in the league for him, he was coming back from microfracture surgery, and I was a big Kelsey guy. I sat with him at the combine his rookie year, and I told him it was ridiculous he didn't get his own podium. It was that big. He had like a little table. But I was literally getting daily updates on Kelsey, you know, his first OTA in May, the second year in the league. That's how into him I was. So I just love getting the sleeper tight ends, basically.
Guru, you are on deck here. You already have CeeDee Lamb, the 5th wide receiver off the board, the 8th running back off the board in Javonte Williams here. What are you thinking with this next pick? And I know you're thinking about another breakout guy because you're trying to win this league, get that free 2023 FFPC main event entry. What are you thinking here as far as a player, or perhaps a position, as you are now on the clock?
Well, see, one thing I like about going running back, wide receiver, or whatever is because now I'm flexible. So now I go in full BPA mode, and I'm a major ageist. If you're like 25, I'm like, yeah, at running back, I'm like, you're an old man, dude. So I look at young studs I believe in, I just go for it, like Breece Hall, who is the best back in the class. And basically I got him in the 3rd round. Breece Hall next year at the latest will be a 2nd round pick.
Speaking of ahead of the curve, I have been saying, and Ferrell has been saying on this show for the last several months, Breece Hall is going to be creeping up as we get to main event time in Las Vegas at Planet Hollywood. Very excited for that. And Breece Hall creeping up again. John Hansen, the fantasy guru, creeping up the Breece Hall ADP tonight. We were going to let you go. Enjoy your 4th round pick. Good luck the rest of the way. We'll continue to listen to you on SiriusXM Fantasy Football Morning from 6 a.m. until 9 a.m. Weekday mornings on
10 a.m.
10 a.m. Beg your pardon, 10 a.m. I missed that last hour. Thank you for correcting me. And we'll follow you on Twitter at fantasy_guru. Check out all the stuff you're churning up for fantasy points as well. Thanks so much for dropping by the podcast tonight, John, and good luck the rest of the way, man.
You got it, guys. Enjoyed it. Later.
See you, John.
Thank you. John Hansen, ladies and gentlemen, the fantasy guru, taking Breece Hall at the 309 tonight to go with Javonte Williams. And Ferrell, there is some added benefit to doing that in a format where you have to get first place to win anything. Let's go with the breakout guys. Maybe you don't hit on all of them, but if you hit on some of them, man, a lot of teams are going to be chasing you the rest of the way.
Yeah, and he went much, much later last night. So, yeah, way to go, John. Get out there and get your guys. You got to love your guys. It's a Lance Turbs thing, Balky. I got my guys.
Get your guys, exactly.
You know,
go ahead.
I like the way he approaches this business. I like the way he talks about tight ends. He might actually be able to add to his resume, get a job with the New York Football Giants here pretty soon. With his knowledge of the tight end.
What I don't understand, like how did he not get a minority role in draft day? I mean, that would have been perfect for him, right?
I've already challenged the agent, Balky. Let's leave it.
All right. So then, I'll leave it.
We have an agent that's connected out there. You know.
I'm not gonna bring the courts into this podcast yet. Maybe later on, but we won't bring them in now. We're gonna let everybody. We're gonna be civilized tonight.
Yes, civilization is needed everywhere.
Exactly. Breece Hall, by the way, normally in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament, which you can play at myffpc.com right now for $125. Take your chance at a $200,000 payday. Breece Hall, according to the ADP ADP provided to us by the godfather of pros versus Joes, Darren Armani at Fantasy Mojo on Twitter, fantasymojo.com. Brees Hall going at the 401 on average. If Guru wants him, probably has to take him here in the third round because there's a really good chance he does not make it back to him here at the 404. We are in the fourth round. I'm not going to bother to go over pick by pick in this analysis. No real surprises in the first round, Ferrell. I mean, I guess probably the biggest one would be CeeDee Lamb at the 109, and we already heard Guru's input on that of why he took him there. Solid reasoning. And then he gets Javonte Williams in the second round as well. I'm not really seeing anything in the first two rounds I necessarily want to talk about. Do you think Deebo Samuel for Huseyin Aksu at the one spot at the 212 is a reach? I really don't. I could see the argument for Samuel as a second round pick.
Samuel's a multi-use talented player. Whoever plays quarterback, he's going to do fine. Who's number 10? Who's team 10?
Team 10 is Josh and Laura Durham. Josh Durham was on the High Stakes Fantasy Footballer just about a month or so ago, Ferrell. We talked to him then. So Josh and Laura, the FFPC Joe tandem, picking in slot number 10 tonight.
So if you take them, I like what they're doing. I would have taken Adams over Lamb. I would have taken Cook over Williams. And I would have taken Travis Etienne over Hall. So every move they've made, I prefer those moves to what John did. So I'm going to watch this one closely because, John's got his reasons for drafting who he's drafting, but I really like what Team 10 is up to doing, and they're on the clock.
They are on the clock, and everything is coming up Derm and Dermer as their team name dictates tonight. They get another PPR wunderkind in Jalen Waddle here with the 403. So a lot of targets on this day. I love collecting targets in this format. Like, you collect targets of the running back, receiver, and tight end position, you are going to be well off. Coming up in the third round, you have Alvin Kamara going at the 302 tonight. That's Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein taking him as their number one running back. Darren Waller coming off the board at the 305. What do you make of Michael Pittman at the 306 to Michael Zuka here, Ferrell? I know you have a soft spot in your heart for Michael Pittman this year.
Love Michael Pittman. That's as high as I'm going to go for Michael Pittman. I loved it better when he was in the 7th and 6th and 5th and 4th round. But now he's there. Let's go back to the Derms, my new favorite team. Balky targets be gone. There's over 400 catches in those first four players. And
that is accurate. That is accurate, my friend. Let's get into, as long as we are we're talking about this format right now, by the way, the same, and I think I just mentioned this, the exact same format as the FFPC Best Ball Tournament. If you watch this podcast, you know that I have been covering the FFPC Best Ball Tournament with my co-host who's been drafting in the FFPC Best Ball Tournament. We've done 2 of these live drafts. We're going to do another one coming up in about 2 weeks. In fact, it might be, I'd have to ask him. I think it's like 2 weeks from tonight or maybe 2 weeks from yesterday. But I want to bring him in right now. You know him from this show. You follow him on Twitter at Dave Turp. He's here to talk analysis on these 12 teams tonight. Please welcome in Dave Tripoli, ladies and gentlemen.
What's up, guys? What's going on?
We're excited to hear you. So you're very, one of the things I love about you, Dave, is you mix. You don't mix words, right? Or mince words.
Not at all. And I don't plan on it right now.
No, you tell it like it is. So what's standing out 3 rounds into this draft? What's standing out?
I mean, there's some really good teams to start off. 3, Todd is killing it so far. Team 4 looks really nice. Team 6, really good. Team 7, solid. Team 10, we talked about. I just heard you guys talking about, is exceptional so far. John Hansen's team, sorry.
Well, okay, so now
the John Hansen.
So Turp, let's talk about this here because he is going for being not a year early on these guys, but he's trying to get them before everybody else is aware of them. And you have to win first place in this league to get anything, right? Winning the overall means nothing. All you got to do is beat out these other 11 owners for a free 2023 FFPC main event. Easy. So knowing that, I mean, you're drafting a little bit differently in the best ball tournament, but knowing that you have to beat out these other 11 owners, you still don't like the strategy of getting Lamb in the first, Javonte Williams in the second, Brees Hall.
CeeDee Lamb's fine. Javonte Williams over DeAndre Swift over Barkley. Not for me. No way. No chance. Mike Evans.
What about Brees Hall?
You got on the list.
What about Brees Hall in the third?
I don't mind that. That upside's there. Like you said, he's going to creep up when we get to Vegas, playing at Hollywood as we get close to the live drafts and like the end of the season where it's going to start ramping up. I'm fine with Brees Hall. I'm fine with Gabriel Davis, but the Javonte Williams pick, he's rising in drafts right now, and I don't really understand why. Melvin Gordon's still there. He's still a worry.
Right. Except for John Hansen's not worried about it.
He's a minority because I know a lot of smart people that I talk to. Like a lot of smart people in this industry do not like Javonte Williams this year.
And I would, and John Hansen's obviously smart as well. So you have the polarizing ends of the spectrum here.
100%.
With the Denver ground game. Terp, do you have a favorite slot so far this year? Because I know you singled out team 3, 4, 5, 6 tonight's draft, and obviously team 10 have strong drafts. Do you have a favorite slot that you've been getting, whether it's football guys, whether it's the best ball tournament that you really like your teams from?
I like being in the middle. I just feel like you could do so much with your drafts. You're kind of stuck at the end. I hate being number 1. Really don't like being number 2. I feel like there's a little bit of a drop off after like Aaron Jones. Fournette has some questions. Kamara has some questions. I'm not the biggest Tyreek Hill, Deebo Samuel guy. Chubb is not really for me. So like you're kind of like you might be reaching a little bit to get your guys if you're picking number 1. We know how much I love Travis Etienne, so I don't care about the news today. It's really hard for me to ever pass on him, but I don't like being
talking about the news today of James Robinson starting the season in camp, but not on the PUP list.
Correct. If anything, I think that just helps me.
Yeah,
because people are going to see that, and people are going to react to that news like it's James Robinson's going to be like a timeshare type of guy. I don't see it.
No, I really think there's 2 positions for those guys, especially on third downs. Terp, you talked about, and one of the things I love about being at 11-12, perhaps is if you've got a couple of decisions to make, they become easier decisions. You can get both players, but I'm leaning towards you. The middle rounds seem to be the rounds that I've been most comfortable with and have the best options. And I've never really felt that way before. Naturally, you're going to make a run at it wherever you end up in these drafts. You're an East Coast guy. What is your – like I see Gabriel Davis here. Gabriel Davis is a player we've consistently been high on the show. There's no way I would take him in the 4th round. Your consensus related to the geography that you're in, how does that play into your fantasy football preparedness?
I mean, I'm a big Eagles guy, so obviously, I try to get down there as much as possible and see all that stuff that's going on in the division. Obviously, with the Giants, the Redskins, Commanders, whatever you want to call them, and then the Cowboys. But, I mean, it seems like this 4th round, like the way it's going, like we just mentioned Gabriel Davis, it is literally all over the place in drafts. Like I've seen Gabe Davis go there, and then I've seen him flip to the 5th round. It seems like these receivers are kind of all interchangeable in some people's eyes. So it's kind of just a mixture of kind of like John said when he was on here, go get your guy. I always respect the mentality. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
John said he's not afraid to lose, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, like you guys said, this league is, if you come in 2nd place, congratulations, you get nothing. If you come in 12th, people might make fun of you, but who cares? All that matters is first place.
You come in 12th, you get the same thing as 2nd place.
Yeah, you get the same respect as the guy who came in 2nd. There's nothing involved with it. So go get your guys. I'll come on here and make fun of you, and then when you win, you can come on here and make fun of me. That's what makes this great.
That's what makes this great. Exactly. Gabriel Davis, as Terp was saying, he goes at the 404 tonight to John Hansen from Fantasy Points. According to the Best Ball Tournament ADP over the last 5 days, he has fluctuated about a round and a half right now. He's settled in at the 504, but he's gone as high as the 406, as late as the 511. So once again, John Hansen putting his money where his mouth is here, getting Gabriel Davis, the bulked up Gabriel Davis, up to 227 pounds this year. We'll see what he does in Buffalo. Ferrell, we talked about this last night. All these receivers going. Here we are through 4.5 rounds tonight. We already have 26 receivers off the board. Why are the receivers, you think, getting pushed up in these 2 first drafts of the Pros versus Joes this season?
Everybody's getting ready to play in Kentucky, except Terp, who won't come down here. But God, we would love to have
one of these years. You're going to get me.
I don't know, because I see the position being so deep, and we don't see anyone here in the 5th round. Well, team number 2 has 3 running backs after starting with 2 elite receivers. I sort of like their philosophy. So I can't answer that question, Balky. I tell you what, those tight ends are flying off the board almost in the same spots that we saw them come off with. Good drafters like these guys aren't going to waste early picks on quarterbacks, even with the fact you want 2 or 3 of them. So I don't know, with depth at wide receiver that I see in this draft. Dave Turp said that many players see some of the receivers as interchangeable.
Mm-hmm.
I see elite receivers, but I see elite receivers throughout the entire draft. So I'm going to get some running backs if I'm sitting there pushing on these buttons. And Hansen talked about his Hollywood experience. Turp was in Silver Linings Playbook. I saw him in the fight scenes once or twice, and when they went
He might have been.
I think you were there. I definitely think you were there.
I'm going to stop you right there. Now I don't know if you're messing with me or not, because I know where Turp is from, and I know where the setting is.
I saw him in the fight scenes.
So were you an extra in Silver
You might have
Linings
to watch
Playbook?
the movie and see.
I've seen it, but I wasn't looking for you, though.
You might have to watch it again and see.
Local girl Jennifer Lawrence speaks well
Yes,
of you, Turp.
That's right. Jennifer Lawrence, the pride of Louisville, next to Ferrell Elliott, of course, was in that flick. And then Turp's best friend, Bradley Cooper, apparently, got him a
big
role.
Bradley Cooper guy.
Did a good job in that film, Turp.
Very good movie.
Goes to Eagles games with Bradley Cooper all the time. I'm going to have to rewatch. And now I know what I'm
You're going to have to rewatch it.
After the program tonight, new episode of Better Call Saul, and then I'm watching
There you go.
Playbook. All right, so one of the Tarek Bryant Jr. in the YouTube chat right now is talking about Team 3. That's Todd Burroughs from the Run to Daylight podcast. Terp, he says he loves Team 3. I think you commented on this earlier. You like the start. McCaffrey and Aaron Jones, A.J. Brown, Allen Robinson, and Rashad Bateman. Todd's done a ton of best ball so far, and it's kind of showing right here with this start.
He lives in the best ball streets. I mean, he is extremely talented. He knows how to structure a good team. The McCaffrey-Jones start, you can't really ask for much better. And then just stacking receivers, it's the best draft in this league by far, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so far,
right? And we're only about 25% into it. We have 1, 2, 3. We got 7 tight ends off the board. We got only 2 quarterbacks off the board. Yes. Ferrell, once again, Josh Jacobs falls to the 6th round. Brian Harris taking him there. He continues to be a steal right now because of how far he's slipping, in your opinion, right?
I'm very, very happy with Jacobs here. And that's the type of running back. That's going to be your number 2 running back when amongst your first 5 picks, you spend 1 on tight end. You got Andrews, and Brian also went quarterback early with Josh Allen. So that's what you're going to have in the 6th round, Josh Jacobs. He was fortunate that player was still there. We haven't had a running back taken since Antonio Gibson, middle of the 5th. So he could have lost both Jacobs and Elijah Mitchell. Fortunately for him, he got Jacobs. And Turp, in regards to coming to Kentucky, I've had the pleasure of seeing and your lovely wife on the social media pages and the support and the relationship you guys have. If I were you, speaking as a aged bachelor, I would never leave home either. I wouldn't go anywhere.
She's awesome. She keeps me in line.
I tell you what, I don't know what kind of fantasy football season you're going to have, but how many years have you been married?
I was married November 20th last year. So
that's the best damn day's work you ever did. I'm going to write down November 20th.
Way past my pay grade. Way past.
I think you're matching up pretty well there, my friend.
Thank you.
Terp, Team 2 tonight. That's Roy Parensuela and Corey Hanstein. We have seen a lot of these drafts, and you've seen a lot of these drafting in the best ball tournament. Start off with running backs early. They go with Cooper Kupp and Tyreek Hill, and then go with the running backs after that. What can you say about that strategy, attacking the receiver position like they did in the first 2 rounds, and now hammering 3 straight running backs?
I'm fine with Kamara. I'm fine with Akers. I think Kamara is somebody I'm sky high on, and the only thing that's stopping him from being a late first, early second, in my opinion, is a suspension. If that gets cleared, I mean, he's going to be going at the end of the first round, beginning of the second round in almost every draft. So his upside right now, you got to take a shot in this type of contest. If you can get him here before potential news breaks next week, people will keep saying August 1st is the date. You can't pass him up. The David Montgomery pick, I don't really agree with.
But what he did with Akers here, guys, you take a situation, if you're going to handcuff, if you're going to stack, those are inexpensive handcuffs with
100%.
and Williams. And I really like Akers in this format. This is the only place I would want to have those Rams running backs to try to figure out who to play. But, you know, that's the Super Bowl champion starting running back at the end of the 4th round. That's not a bad move.
Not at all.
Ferrell, we have a couple of conversations going on in the YouTube chat right now. I want to center on what Todd Burroughs is saying. It seems like he's pretty ticked off at Mike Zuko, who's drafting in the 6th spot tonight, taking Dallas Goedert here tonight at the 607. I believe that was Todd Burroughs' next pick. Goddard going to Zuka, but he makes up for it in J.K. Dobbins. Is that
Does he make up for it though?
Okay, I guess that was my question here. Is Dobbins a nice consolation for not getting Goddard here in the 6th?
Not for me. I mean, there's so many questions with the Baltimore running backs right now, and why would he just take another receiver?
What about you, Ferrell? What do you think about the Dobbins pick?
He doesn't need him here, and it's too big a risk. And you know, we were talking about how these great drafters has only taken 2 quarterbacks and how they're going to wait on quarterbacks. And then we had a quarterback run in round 6 with 4 guys. And I'm not saying he should have kept in that run, but yeah, there's better choices in Dobbins there, especially with the way teams 2 and 1 are leaning. I don't think they would have taken Dobbins. So Dobbins would probably be available at the 7 spot as you came back around.
Yeah,
and he could have stacked AJ Brown.
Yeah, and well, let's talk about the stacks, guys, because that's the other conversation going on in the chat right now is, and Darren Armani brought it up, all these quarterbacks are naked so far. There are no stacks. Jalen Hurts to Parenzuela and Hansen, no Eagles there. Mahomes to Jason Petropoulos from Broto Fantasy, no Chiefs there, although as some of the other users in the YouTube chat room pointing out, it's easier to stack Mahomes later. But Kyler Murray to Julio Fuentes, no Cardinals. Joe Burrow to John Hansen, no Bengals. Lamar Jackson to Josh and Laura Durham, no Ravens. Justin Herbert to RotoViz and DLF guys in Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell, no Chargers there. And then Josh Allen, no Bills for Brian Harris there. Although I will say Curtis Patrick chiming in saying, if I can get Herbert in the 6th round, I don't care how many Chargers I have on my team. I'm drafting Herbert there, you know.
And there's Chargers still available.
And there are Chargers still available. But Turp, Ferrell and I were talking about this last night. Stacking is important in this format.
Stacking is 100% important, especially in a league where nobody's doing it. If I'm Todd, I take Hurts instead of Dobbins. And you probably still get Dobbins or, you know, another tight end if you like one of those guys, or like I keep saying, stack more receivers.
There's another quarterback he could be looking at as he's on the clock here at the 7:03 that could still create a stack for him. I don't know
he doesn't do it.
He doesn't. Okay, you guys are ahead of me. Oh no, you're right. Yeah, I'm looking at. Yeah, he didn't do it there. He gets Russell Wilson.
Very confused by those last 2 picks.
Ferrell, we're seeing a lot of quarterbacks off the board tonight. 8 quarterbacks here in the first 6+ rounds. And I wonder, and we probably won't see it on the right side of the draft board because we're seeing 5 of those 6 teams already with quarterbacks over there. I wonder if there's going to be more of a need for the teams without quarterbacks to take one right now.
Yes, and there's still some very, very good ones out there,
right.
Of course, and perhaps some of the next picks will set up their quarterback run in the 8th and 9th. I look where's our team that I like so much with
that's
Adams,
the
10 team,
Josh and Laura Durham.
You know, and they they take Lamar, and you can't argue with taking Lamar, but man, oh man, there were some late value stacks there that they could have really taken advantage of. So I would have been curious to know what other position player other than quarterback that they would have taken at that spot. I guess we'll never know.
Todd saying in the YouTube chat, he doesn't care about stacking in this. He says to call him in a month at Dobbins at the 6:10. Well, Todd, I'll tell you this. Call us right now on the StreamYard and get on the and we'd love to have you and talk to you about your team because we do like it by and large. All of us really like it. We don't have to love every single one of your picks, and the Dobbins one's the one we called out, but there's a bunch of other good picks that we really love there. Obviously, Russell Wilson. Getting that elite of a quarterback here in the 7th round certainly bodes well for you as well. Terp, Ferrell and I talked a little bit about this last night. Juju Smith-Schuster continues to get a lot of love, even though the presence of Travis Kelce is there, and even though the Chiefs paid Marquez Valdes-Scantling a whole lot more money than Juju Smith-Schuster. What are your thoughts on Smith-Schuster as a 6th round pick this year as Peter Overzet made him?
Nope, not for me. I'm an MVS Sky Moore guy. I'm actually a huge Sky Moore guy. I just don't, like you said, follow the money. If they really believed in him, people keep saying. I read a couple articles in the last week he could possibly catch 100 balls. I don't see it. I mean, is he? But you have to get some pieces of the Kansas City offense. Mahomes is, the target share of Tyreek Hill is gone. Travis Kelce's still there, but he's getting up there in age.
Right.
All these receivers, somebody's going to emerge. Could it be Juju? Of course it could be, but I'm not high on him. I'm not banking a 6th-round pick on him.
How would you feel if those names you mentioned, including Schuster, do you see the possibility that 3 of those 4 names have 1,000 yards? And do you see Schuster, if you don't see him with 100, where do you see him with receptions? Because, when we talk about the money here, they're making a long-term investment in MVS, a speed player at the position. Schuster's making a 1-year investment in the team, and the team's making a 1-year investment in him. I like all those players. I like Schuster better, obviously, than you do. How many catches do you see for Schuster? What is a successful season for him?
I think he's going to be the 4th most receptions on the team.
Less receptions than Sky Moore, then? Less receptions than Hardman?
Yeah. No, not Hardman.
Okay.
MVS. I just don't – nothing about Juju. I think, throughout all my drafts so far, I think I'm about 4 or 5% on him.
Uh-huh.
I'm getting some targets on him just because you don't want to get stuck. But I feel like last year was his chance. He signed the 1-year deal in Pittsburgh, and that was a disaster. Then he comes here on a 1-year deal. He's not getting paid any money. Of course, he could be Mahomes' favorite target. But I just don't like what I've seen from him lately. Last couple of years, he hasn't looked like the guy that was a dynasty dream a couple of years ago. Mm-hmm. And now he's just – I feel like he's just on the tail end of his career, even though he's still young. But he's closer to being out of the league than he is leading 100. People keep saying 100 receptions, 90 receptions. I don't see it. I'll have some shares just because you have to have shares of this offense. Mm-hmm. But he's not somebody I'm targeting.
Okay, well, I don't think you're wrong about those other guys, but I think you're missing this one here. But we'll see. I sure like him a lot better, and I like Gabriel Davis's track record. I just want to go out there and say that.
I'll take Gabriel Davis 100 times.
I know you will. Listen,
fellas, we're all going to get on the same conference call with Todd Burroughs in a month.
Yes.
We'll talk about Smith-Schuster. We'll talk about Dobbins. We'll talk about it all. Ferrell, let me pose something to you that faced Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hansen here, the FFPC Joes, at the 702 tonight. So they have no tight ends on their squad coming into the 702. Huseyin the Brain Aksu from Fantasy Couch doubles up on tight end with Zach Ertz in the 6th round. It comes to Parenzuela and Hansen in the 7th round, knowing they don't have a tight end, knowing one team has already doubled up on tight end, knowing that if they pass on tight end here, they got to wait all the way to the end of the 8th round. What do you do in a scenario like that? Whether you're drafting in football guys, whether you're drafting in the FFPC best ball tournament, how do you handle something like that when all of a sudden you realize, oh man, all of a sudden tight end's more of a premium than I thought?
I think they might have made a mistake because they went for a 4th running back in a tight end premium league. Now, so far it's paid off because only one tight end has gone off the board. And they probably have targeted red zone tight ends rather than reception tight ends, and they might like a couple of the younger guys like I do. But you're going to have to draft them sometime, and everybody else sees those players too. I think every team here wants 3 starting tight ends, and there's not enough to go around. And I would have wanted 1 tight end before I wanted that 4th running back.
All right, I want to welcome in our next guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen, a best ball expert, a best ball seer. He's got the best ball crystal ball. He hosts the Run to Daylight podcast. You follow him on Twitter at Best Ball NFL. He's picking from the 3 spot tonight. We've had mostly good things to say about his draft. He's here to tell us why we're all wrong. I look forward to it right now. Todd Burroughs, welcome to the program, man.
There he is.
Our fearless leader.
I Buddha bless you, and Terp,
Please bless that J.K. Dobbins pick.
Damn
You're gonna
good
need
to
it.
see you, Turp.
Good to
So-
see you too.
All right, so Todd, let me.
These
ask-
guys have a little history, Balky.
Well,
You know,
we can let everybody in on that if we want to talk about Burros versus Tripoli here.
We have
What's
a
the
history? I thought we always got along great.
I
yeah, well,
love
that could be your history, sir. Stick with that. Develop around that
The
narrative.
J.K. Dobbins thing could start our
Did you
history.
ever realize that his story is history? And if you read the Bible, no. All right, go ahead.
We're this close to YouTube cutting off our feed right now, but I'm glad you stopped yourself, Todd. Okay, so let's talk about this. We obviously all loved your start from the 3 spot tonight, but then it turned a little bit. Now, okay, let me preface this. Were you looking at Goddard in the 6th round? Had Zuka not taken him?
Oh
before
yeah,
you?
I mean
Okay.
that's easy money. I didn't really expect him to make it back to me, but you know, I don't know Mike Zuka, but I keep hearing from people I respect how good he is.
Yeah.
And I trust guys like Dave Hubbard when they say he's good, he's good. I mean, his ADP is 6'6" in Fantasy Mojo's most recent ADP. So I didn't really expect him to make it to me. But, you know, it still stings when, to me, he was clearly the guy that would have fit my team the best. Dobbins is, first of all, I'm a lot higher on Dobbins than most people. The guy is electric. We just heard that he might miss the beginning of the season, and he came right back on and was like, you know, kind of like, F that. I'm gonna be here. Well, his ADP in the last 5 days, according to Fantasy Mojo, is the middle of the 5th round. So for me to get him at 6'10", it was a pure value pick. And since I have McCaffrey and Aaron Jones, if he does, he's a big spike week guy, which is hugely important in best ball. He's an electric player. So to get over a round of value on a guy that I like, based on some news that Ian Rappaport put out there, it to me was a no-brainer.
By the way, as Fantasy Mojo is pointing out in Twitter or in the YouTube chat right now, Michael Zuka not only took a top 5 finish home in the FFPC main event, he won one of the live auctions out at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, and he also won.
I never doubted that he was good. It just,
I'm not calling you out. I'm just for the YouTube, the stream viewers, just
Gotcha.
showing Zuka had a great year in 2021.
Yeah,
And in defense of Dobbins, I believe
and I
we
like
can
his
drop
draft,
all
and I like
charges.
his draft a lot. If you look at his team, he couldn't pass on Connor in the 4th for the same reason I felt I couldn't pass on Dobbins in the 6th. You get your 3rd running back. It takes a lot of pressure off a position that's gonna, you know, you're gonna run out of good running backs before you run out of good wide receivers, as Ferrell very rightly mentioned. You know, and then he took Mooney, who I love, and I'm on the clock. So a little bit of a reach here. I like this guy who I'm about to take a tremendous amount. I think out of all the later tight ends, he has the best chance of being a top 4 or 5 guy, and that's Pat Freiermuth.
Big rookie year last year.
Yeah, so I really think that he is a guy who his ADP should be a little higher than it is. A tight end, I didn't want to go any further without getting a good tight end. So that to me, that's when you reach.
Quarterbacks worry you?
Sometimes you scoop value like Dobbins, and sometimes you reach a little bit.
Todd, Terp was just pointing out, what about the Pittsburgh quarterback situation? Does that worry you at all with Freiermuth?
It does to a certain extent, but you know what do rookies and bad quarterbacks do? They drop off the ball a lot. Freiermuth, you know, to me, and see the other thing people sometimes I think miss about 1.5 tight end is it really is only good for guys who catch a lot of passes, right? And I think Freiermuth is the type of guy who could give you 70, 80 catches, which is the equivalent of 105 at wide receiver. I don't think he's a huge big play guy like some of the other, like a Goddard, but I do think he's going to have a good floor. He's going to catch, 4 or 5 passes a week, and he'll give you a certain amount of touchdowns. It remains to be seen how many.
And
He's fantastic in the red zone, and he was in college. That's not something that was just incidental to last year. Freiermuth is a better player inside the 20-yard line. He loves to compete, and he loves to get open, and he knows how to do it. He looks like one of the more seasoned veterans whenever Pittsburgh Steelers are in the red zone. You knew the ball was going to him, and you didn't know a lot about what Steelers were doing last year, but you knew that they were going to get the ball to Freiermuth.
And the Steelers always seem to find a way to be I love the guy, and it was I really wanted Pitts to fall to me, and when he didn't, Aaron Jones falling to me was fabulous.
And you had to be holding your breath for him to get back to you, since I could tell how much you wanted this player. Throughout the 7th and the 8th round in a tight end premium format, everybody wants 3. There was only 2 drafted. I might have to rethink that. Maybe everyone doesn't want 3. But congratulations, a good pick. Now you going to pick another tight end now?
Boy, there is one I like.
Yeah,
but there's another guy that I really like too at the quarterback position, and that would kind of fill me up. I mean, they're my 2 most owned quarterbacks in best ball right now are Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott. Yeah. But tight end's going to thin out quicker. I'm going to take Cole Kmet. And I think that those 2 guys together make up for not getting one of the top guys.
All right. Todd, one of the other things you posted in the
was that the guy you were thinking of, Ferrell?
Yeah, he certainly is. And I have concerns about Chicago Bears scoring the ball from the quarterback. It was rough last year. But you cannot expect this player to turn in a goose egg with touchdowns. And I'm right there with his receptions. He'll trail Freiermuth, but not by much in receptions.
Yeah. And last year, again, people forget Jimmy Graham was still there last year.
Man target.
And he's not now.
Mm-hmm.
Todd, one of the things that you posted in the YouTube chat earlier was you don't care about stacking in this format. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you've done a ton of best ball drafts. And I'm just curious what your thoughts on stacking in this particular format.
Well, this is an isolated league with 1 prize, right? And there is an advantage to stacking even still. But, I think that Jalen Hurts, I think I could have easily taken Jalen Hurts. But the Dobbins value to me, maybe he would have made it back. Maybe he wouldn't have. But I felt like if Hurts didn't make it back, it wasn't much of a drop-off to Russ. And so that's kind of the mental math that you're doing in your head when you're on the clock. I feel the drop-off at running back. I mean, look at who went after Dobbins in the 6th. Mm-hmm. The next guy was Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then Miles Sanders and Kareem Hunt. Guys who are not, real A's with big upside week to week. So, I took a chance that I could slip Hurts through, but I felt like Wilson would not be bad behind it. There is an advantage to stacking, but it isn't something in a solo league. It's much more important in a tournament where you need to advance each week than it is in a solo league.
Todd, I don't have anything else for you. You've been very, very gracious with your time here during the draft. Ferrell, Terp, is there anything else you'd like to ask Todd about his team from the 3 slot before we let him go?
Always a pleasure.
Who's the quarterback? Well, no, you don't want to tell me that. You can't tell me that.
Well,
you don't know
he's gone already. I would have. He went the next pick. It was Dak.
Oh, you were choosing between he and Dak.
Yeah, I mean, Dak to me, Dak and Wilson are my 2 highest owned quarterbacks. Both of them have top 3 upside. Both of them are going in the 6 to 12 range. I love that range, and I just felt that I really needed a tight end there, second tight end.
Todd, we appreciate you coming on the podcast tonight. Awesome stuff as always. Very insightful, very informative. We all follow you at Best Ball NFL on Twitter. Good luck not only in this draft, but in all your other teams this year, man. We always appreciate it. It's
always an honor to be invited. This one never gets old. And I want to thank Mojo and the people at FFPC. Love the format. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Todd. Be good. Enjoy the rest of the draft, man.
Have a good one, man.
Todd Burroughs, ladies and gentlemen. The Todd at Best Ball NFL on Twitter. Guys, I don't want to totally flip the script from Todd's team, but we probably should talk about what Peter Overzet from Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life is doing in the 7 spot tonight. Starts off tight end running back in Kelsey and DeAndre Swift. And then out of his next 8 picks, am I reading that right? No, 7 picks. He goes with a receiver in all of them. Terp, what do you make of this strategy? And bear in mind, he got Trey Lance in the 8th round, which could be a cheat code this year. Follows it up with the stack in getting Brandon Ayuk in the 9th round.
Exceptional draft. I can't say much negative about it. He got a gift with DeAndre Swift falling where it fell, and just getting Lance, who in my opinion could be easily a top 5 upside play this year, and then getting Ayuk like right behind it. Cheap stack. You didn't have to overpay for him like in some drafts that you see. Judy's a good value in the 5th. I'm not a Juju guy, but some people are, so that's not bad in the 6th. You're not getting him any later than that. Drake London's going to be a target guy. It's really hard not to love his draft. I mean, he's definitely in the top 1 or 2, maybe 3 in this whole league so far.
So what does he do at running back now the rest of the way, as we're almost halfway through and he only has 1 running back?
He doesn't really like taking running backs.
But don't you have to, I don't care if you like it or not, you got to do it at some point.
He'll get some. He'll get a bunch. He'll get a bunch of Madisons and
so that, in your opinion, that's what he's going to do. He's going to start pounding all these 1 injury away type guys, right?
He's going to get a bunch of guys like that and just hope an RB2 emerges. And if it does, he's probably going to win the league.
He's going to have an RB1 perhaps emerge if he's playing Russian roulette with the injury situation. I agree that DeAndre Swift is a wonderful present. And then it was like he thought he would get gag gifts if he went back to running back again. And he's got Juju Smith-Schuster here, a guy you don't like, as his 4th receiver. And then the rookie London as his 5th receiver, when there was a lot of really good running backs on the board. And I love London. Who doesn't, that's in the scouting business?
What running backs would you take over London?
What I'm saying is he is the 5th receiver.
That's fair.
If you go to, we love Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman caught 41 balls in his rookie year before he became the player that he did become. If you take a look at what's going on in Atlanta, quarterback, offensive coordinator, system, offensive line, it's hard to imagine that Drake London is just going to run free and catch a lot of balls. No, I at some point in time, he would have been judicious to pick another running back. Just 1 more running back, and I like this a little better. I believe that the least important player in fantasy football is your 2nd-string running back, but Rachaad White just went bulky. What running back is that? RB?
Yeah, it's 37. He's a 37.
RB 37, and let me tell you, it's getting a little thin down here.
It's getting ugly right now. I mean, looking at the guys who are still available, he's probably going to have to take one here and maybe the next round and maybe the next round. But
no, he won't take one here. Not after that.
Well, okay, but let's talk about this a little bit. Ferrell, I'm totally with you on, like, when I'm maybe not best ball, but like especially when I'm playing KFFSC main event or any other format where it's like start 2 or 3 receivers, couple of flexes, whatever. I'm with you. I think I'm not really focused on my 2nd running back, right? Unless an insane value falls to me. I'll figure that out throughout the regular season. Now, he does go with James Cook here, a pass-catching running back from Buffalo. So there is something to be said for that. But I think as far as trying to win the whole thing, if you assemble a good core of receivers with an elite tight end, which he has in Travis Kelce, with an elite starting running or number 1 running back in Swift, and then getting a potential cheat code quarterback in Trey Lance, if you hit on one of these late round running backs, doesn't that make you a lot more likely to win this league with that type of team structure?
Perhaps it does, but you're asking him that he must hit on a double-digit running back, and he's got to hit. He
takes a bunch of them, right?
And he's got to hit them consistently through the season.
Okay,
now they've got to get their opportunity. You mentioned Madison; he's got to get an opportunity to play. Some of these other, Jamal Cook's in the same way. The veteran running backs in that backfield are just not going to stand aside to let him play, nor is coaching staff. My point is that the cost of picking up another running back certainly does not exceed the price that he had to pay. He had to pay a lot. I think if we were together and look at this, I could find a lot of receivers down here in the double-digit rounds that'll catch as many, if not more, balls than Drake London. That's where his running back, I think, should have come from.
Henry Muto chiming in. Who, by the way, Henry Muto, who drafted last night in Pros versus Joes, chiming in, saying that Pete took one running back in the first nine rounds. That's more than normal. We could listen. We could talk.
He's
about
a big zero running back guy.
And listen. We can talk about Pete Overzet's draft. We could talk about his strategy. We could pontificate on what he's thinking. I have a better solution. Let's talk to the man himself. You follow him on Twitter at Peter Overzet from Matthew Berry's Fantasy Lab, bringing him into the broadcast right now. It's Peter Overzet from the 7 spot. Pete, what's up, man?
Legend.
Yeah, my ears were burning. I had to come in here and tell Ferrell he's full of shit, and I'm crushing this. And it's good to be here as always. Always a fun time. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, we're thrilled that you're on. You had to be thrilled that DeAndre Swift fell to you in the second round, right?
Yeah, I was, when I got the 7 slot, I kind of assumed Kelsey wasn't going to be there. I kind of thought I was going to end up going Stephon Diggs there just because I don't love those running backs in the first round. But Swift and Barkley were my 2 targets there in the second round after getting Kelsey. So had my choice there, kind of flipping coins. I like both of those guys. Ended up going Swift. And then once I started tight end and running back, I knew I was going to be pissing yellow here for a while.
Yeah, and you did, and like Moore, Johnson, Judy, Smith-Schuster, Drake London. Do you have a favorite among those receivers from 3 to 7? Do you feel like you got the best value on any of those guys? I mean, I know you like the value on all of them, but who was your favorite of those between Moore, Johnson, Judy, JJ, SS, and London?
Yeah, it was actually, I would say a lot of these guys that I took aren't my favorite just within their ADP pockets, but I was just kind of grabbing the bottom of the tiers. Like, obviously, I would have preferred, AJ Brown and Higgins to DJ Moore. I would have grabbed Mike Williams there instead of Deontay Johnson. I would have grabbed Metcalf, I think, if he fell there. So, yeah, I was kind of getting my consolation prizes, but then I think things swung around. Drake London and getting that Brandon Ayuk backdoor stack with Lance. Felt pretty good there. And then James Cook felt a little bit like a gift. I was kind of torn because I was going to scoop Singletary and even pass on the Ayuk stack if he fell there to me. But then kind of getting James Cook as, kind of the arbitrage on Singletary there. I kind of like how that shook out ultimately.
What when you look at the remainder of this draft, we know you love drafting receivers. Are you going to have to grit your teeth and pound a bunch of green here and get a bunch of running backs the rest of the way? Or are you going to continue to look at the receiver position?
Don't do it, Pete. Don't do it. Stay
so
yellow.
Here's the thing. I am
ready yellow.
I'm ready to start vomiting green, but if there is a receiver, there's one receiver that I will take if he's still here when I pick. But otherwise, we're going to start ripping some green picks here.
Pete, is Trey Lance your pick to win in this format? And we talked about all night how you got to draft or you got to get first place in this league. Otherwise, you win nothing. Is Lance the type of pick to win player that you made here? If this wasn't a 1 out of 12 wins, would you have gone for a different quarterback there?
Yeah, I mean so what was going through my head there was that run, and there goes my guy. I would have taken Garrett Wilson if he didn't go here to brotofantasy.com. But once I saw that side of the board, 8 through 12 had all taken their first quarterback. I was getting a little bit of an itchy finger here. I will take Ronald Jones and build out my Chiefs.
Oh, there we go.
Here.
A lot of vomit here. No,
we're
green anymore. It's all vomit and green. And Peter Overzet. You heard it here first.
But I was getting a little panicky singing that quarterback room. I definitely like prioritizing an elite quarterback, and I do think Lance is going to be part of that tier. But once I saw that side of the board had all taken their first QBs, I thought it was very unlikely that one of them kind of double tapped their second quarterback that early. So I kind of knew I had the London luxury pick, and that Lance would probably fall back to me there, and that's what happened. So I like how the board fell there.
Talking to Peter Overzet from Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. You follow him on Twitter at Peter Overzet. Pete, when you're talking about this format here, again, where one team wins it all, how does your strategy in this format vary as opposed to when you're drafting just a best ball tournament where you're trying to beat hundreds or thousands of other players?
Yeah, I would say this. I think if this was just an FFPC 125 league, I think in the board was like this. I can't really think of anything I would have done differently up to this point. Because it is a first or last thing, I kind of approach it from the same kind of tournament mentality here. And I do just structurally like getting that elite tight end, that elite anchor running back, that elite quarterback. And then it kind of really opens you up to do whatever you want elsewhere. So I don't really think there's much I would do different in a regular 125 league. This is just kind of how I prefer to attack this, where second place gets you nothing.
When are you going to take your elite quarterback?
Oh, Ferrell with
He
the
has
jokes
one.
here. Yeah.
No, I'm
bullets are
on
fired.
the Lance team this year. I just had to get that in there. And you know what? After you didn't pick a receiver, everyone else said, you know what? There's no receivers left. Overzet's not picking them. They all went away.
Well, that's
They've all
sometimes
gone
how,
running back.
sometimes that's how it works, and it's nice, right? Because you'll be
Yeah.
pissing yellow hardcore, and then when everyone starts grabbing theirs, then you get some of these running back values. Like I would consider Cook and Ronald Jones. I'd have to check the ADPs, but I'm pretty sure both those guys slid a little past ADP as people kind of tried to recover at wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it right now between James. Well, let's just kick it off here. James Cook normally 903. You get him in the mid 10th tonight, Pete. So that was a value there. And then obviously Ronald Jones, his ADP is normally actually the 1106. So you got him right about on brand tonight for Ronald Jones. So I totally get that. Had Kelsey been taken, Pete, and knowing that you wanted an elite tight end early, let's say Pitts and Andrews weren't available to you in the second, how would this have been different? Would you have reached for Waller? Would you have taken Schultz earlier? How would you have done that?
You know what? It was interesting. I would have been really praying. I would have gone Diggs in the first, and then I would have prayed Pitts would have fell. He would have gone one before me. Then I would have prayed Waller fell. He would have gone two before me, and I would have ultimately have quote unquote reached for Kittle there in the mid third. I don't think I would have left that round without Kittle.
Okay. All right.
Dave Turp believes that Juju Smith-Schuster is not really a Kansas City Chief contributor this year. Yet you took him kind of where I've been taking him. Your thoughts on Schuster's productivity? Can you give us some numbers?
Yeah, I actually don't even mind that take. I think cost adjusted, I like Sky Moore in MVS. This was another one of those things where I've made a bet on the Chiefs here with Travis Kelce. I am gonna have to pay attention here and see what I am going to do on the board with my my next pick. But I have a few running back options I like here. Let's see. I'll give you guys a celebrity pick. Who should I take? Should I take Michael Carter or Darrell Henderson? You guys get to choose.
Terp, what do you think? Carter or Henderson here?
Henderson.
Ferrell, what about you?
You know what? I'm going to say Carter just because Terp said.
Oh, God, so I got
all right, Balkman, you got to break the tie.
All right, so I knew this was going to happen. All right,
and I'm 60% in Henderson in most of my teams, but yeah, here I'm going to take.
All right, so we've been getting a lot of guests in the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour within the last month talking about Darrell Henderson. So I will say Darrell Henderson here because a lot of people smarter than me that have a lot more skin in the game than me have been saying Henderson. I'll say Henderson here to break the tie.
Henderson
reluctantly breaking the tie. I didn't want to have to do that, and I knew that was going to happen.
How many people come on here and let the panel make their picks for him?
You're the first ever. This is the first ever time that we've ever had a groupthink pick on the. Well, of course we normally don't have three hosts. We're lucky to have three hosts tonight, Pete. So it's very exciting for that. But that's
next time come before you pick quarterback. We'll help you better.
Okay, yeah. No, it was my way of getting you guys in my pocket because now you can't trash my team because you guys literally helped draft it. So now I'm in the clear.
Yeah. So downvote all our tweets about Pete Overzet's horrible pros versus Joe's draft. When we talk about it tomorrow on the interwebs. Pete, we have kept you way too long. You've been very gracious with your time. We appreciate you popping aboard. We will follow you on Twitter at Peter Overzet. Congratulations with everything you have going on, including with Fantasy Life. We're very thankful that you were able to pop aboard tonight. Good luck the rest of the way, dude.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, we're going to be drafting a ton of main event teams on Ship Chasing coming up in August, doing some of our slows now, and we're going to be posting our schedule soon. So yeah, August is going to be FFPC season over on Ship Chasing. So thanks for having me, guys.
Love it. Thank you, Pete. Appreciate it. Main event season. I love it with the FFPC on ship chasing.
Guys, you know why I
August
say
is normally
Carter?
that way, but I love hearing it out loud. Go ahead, Ferrell.
Do you know why I say Carter? Because I was trying to save Henderson for team number 2.
Farrell, why are you do you have stakes in these FFPC Joes?
No, because team number 2 looks like something I might have drafted without the 10th and 11th pick. So I was just trying to save him for that. There's another Ram. He got another Ram. So
yeah, Higbee as the second tight end taken by Parenzuela and Hanstein. And I know and Corey was in the YouTube chat last night, and I should have asked him then, hey, is it Hanstein or Hanstein? And I've said it both ways. I'm trying to balance it out tonight, whether it's Hanstein or Hanstein. So I know I'm butchering it half the time, but at least I'm getting it right half the time. Let's talk about that. Parenzuela and Hanstein not taking a tight end till round 11, still ending up with Okuwepenaum and Higbee. Terp, what do you think about that when you wait 10 rounds and you pass on the position and then you get those two in 11 and 12?
I'm a big wait on the tight end guy, but I don't think they're the guys I'm going to wait on. I think they waited too long. They could have moved up a little bit. Cole Kmet, who we know on this show, I said is going to be a top 5 tight end this year, in my opinion. Would have been a better fit. Irv Smith would have been a better fit. Even guys like Noah Fant. Those two guys are okay, but I just feel like you're going to be way behind the 8 ball when it comes to some of these elite tight ends and even these second-tier options that Team 2 is not a team that I like at all.
Okay. All right. Well, we might be butting heads on that, or at least you and Ferrell will be butting heads on the
We seem to be doing that a lot. Also,
Yeah.
real quick, I want to interrupt you real quick.
Go ahead.
I want to make a bet live on this feed right now.
All
Last
right.
night I heard the feed, and you said Robert Woods would be the number 1 tight end in the Tennessee.
number 1 receiver.
Number one receiver, correct. I am going to take the rookie, Mr. Burks, for a nice steak dinner in Vegas.
In Kentucky,
As Balky
or in Vegas?
and the
Okay.
Dizzle would say, you have 5 on it, Terp, and I will let you pick the location, and we'll
Love
have
it. The bet is good.
I should have that audio. I don't have that audio anymore, unfortunately, so I can't play it. But Lunas, hashtag Lunas. I got 5 on it. Or in this case,
Very
a
nice
steak dinner
rendition.
out in Las Vegas. So, yeah, fantastic. Ferrell, Alexander Madison and Isaiah Spiller went back-to-back here in the 12th round. Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell taking Spiller, and then Alexander Madison going to Josh and Laura Durham. Do you have a favorite out of those two? If it were you on the clock between Madison and Spiller, guys who are counting on injuries to the starter to have fantasy value this year, do you have a favorite between Spiller and Madison?
I see those guys as truly handcuffs, and Spiller wouldn't have been available there for me if I had Eckler, which is team 6. That's where I would have taken Spiller just to see what that might look like and how that's going to look differently in the red zone. And Madison, Madison's a player when he plays, but they're not going to take Cook off the field for him to get that volume. So, that's, Madison went to his handcuffs, Spiller did not. And that's about all I got to say about that. That's where their utility in this draft format lives, I think.
Alex Polanco in the YouTube chat right now saying that he can't see the board because he's watching this on his phone right now. He said it'd be great if we did a round walkthrough at the end of every round. So dedicated to Alex, we're going to try to do that the remainder of the draft. And we'll start with round 12 here. KJ Osborne to Brian Harris, Isaiah Spiller, as you just heard, to Patrick and McDowell, Alexander Madison to Josh and Laura Durham, Jahan Dotson, the rookie, going to John Hansen. Again, shooting for the stars here. He gets Sky Moore in the 10th round, who I know he's high on. And then he gets Jahan Dotson in the 12th. Michael Gallup over to Julio Fuentes coming off the ACL surgery. He gets him here. Darrell Henderson, you heard that pick live on the air from Peter Overzet. Rondale Moore to Mike Zuka. Christian Watson to Jason Petropoulos, followed by Robert Tunyon, Watson's real-life teammate in Green Bay, to Michael Apt. Michael Carter to Todd Burroughs, followed by Tyler Higbee to Parenzuela and Hanstein, and then Tua Tagovailoa to Fantasy Couch. That is Huseyin Aksu, the Huseyin the Brain, picking Tua Tagovailoa at the end of the 12th. Terp, would you be okay with Tua Tagovailoa as your number 1 quarterback if you hit tight end twice and pounded the running backs and receivers in the first 11 rounds?
No. I feel like there's just so many better options. there's so many questions with Tua. Yeah, he has Waddle. Yeah, he has Tyreek. All the weapons are there, but is he really any good? You keep hearing these puff pieces. Tyreek Hill comes out today and says another new slogan that people are taking and going crazy with. I think Tua is a good number 2 with upside, but to lead your team on a team that, no offense, really isn't that great.
Not mincing words. Terp, what if I told you that you could get Jameis Winston with your very next pick? Then would you be okay with it?
No, probably not.
I can't sell him. Yeah.
I mean,
Terp is set on that.
I would probably take Daniel Jones over both of them, but
Oh, wow.
See, now that's surprising to me as well. Why do you like Daniel? Okay, so I get it over Tagovailoa, but why do you like Daniel Jones over Jameis Winston?
it's all about the new coaching staff. Daniel Jones has talent. He has rushing upside. I mean, he was in the disaster of disaster with Jason Garrett. No Barkley. They have plenty of weapons. Yeah, Tony's a little bit of a nut job. You would think new coaching staff, they paid Kenny Galladay a ton of money, are going to start figuring out a way to get him the ball. I like the rookie they drafted at Kentucky, Wan'Dale Robinson. Sterling Shepard's still around there. I just think this new coaching staff's going to figure out a way to get Daniel Jones. He's not Josh Allen, anywhere close to him, but if he's a mini Josh Allen, the Giants, in my opinion, being an Eagles fan, are the biggest challenge to the Eagles this year.
That being said, I've been curious who's going to stand up and beat the drum for Daniel Jones. I'm glad to hear you doing it, Terp. But and from time to time, I feel the same way. But none of the Giant players are moving up the board. Am I correct about this? Galladay is stuck where Galladay is stuck. In the middle of the 9th round has been Tony all year long. There's no they're a little wanting at tight end. I agree with you. There's some players that can play there, and Robinson is a good player from here at the University of Kentucky. So yeah, I feel that there's hope there. You know, I will point out that Winston and Tua are experiencing new coaching situations too.
That's
and
correct.
there's a lot of there's a lot of Winston to 14 touchdowns and 3 interceptions before he went on the IR last year.
They have a ton of weapons in New Orleans too. If Michael Thomas has his head on straight,
right,
which is a big if.
Todd Burroughs, our guest earlier in the program, the first hour tonight, pointing out in the YouTube chat that he likes the Giants as really good values this year. Tony hasn't moved up so much, but Barkley has actually moved up quite a bit, and I can sign off on that. Barkley started off very, very low, and
he was a 3rd round pick early on.
Right, and I was talking with Real Talk Raph and Josh Hayes on the RotoBaller SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio show a few weeks ago, and Terp and Ferrell, I talked about the glamour shots, or Raph called them glamour shots, of Saquon Barkley that started circulating Twitter. And all of a sudden, Barkley's status and his ADP started going up like, oh, my God, he's got quads and abs. He's a 1st-round pick. Let's get into the 13th round here, guys. We already talked about Huseyin Aksu taking Jameis Winston with the 1st pick of the 13th round. Austin Hooper, the 3rd straight tight end, drafted by Parenzuela and Hansen there, going Okuwepa and Tyler Higbee, and then followed by Austin Hooper here. I like that pick. In the 13th round, Jacoby Myers to Todd Burroughs, David Njoku, again, the 3rd straight tight end drafted by Michael Apt here to go with Gerald Everett and Robert Tonyan. Bunch of running backs here then, J.D. McKissick to Jason Petropoulos from Broto Fantasy, Kenneth Gainwell to Mike Zuka, Tyler Allgeier to Peter Overzet as his 4th straight running back, pounding the running backs, like that pick there as well for Overzet. Jalen Tolbert, the rookie, goes to Julio Fuentes here in the 8th spot, Mac Jones backing up Joe Burrow, John Hansen, Evan Engram, and Hayden Hurst. A couple of tight ends off the board next. Engram to Josh and Laura Durham. Hayden Hurst off the board to Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell. And then Van Jefferson completes the round here 13 as Jefferson goes to Brian Harris. Terp, what do you make of Van Jefferson this year? Does he have standalone value if Kupp and Robinson are healthy all year?
I think he's a great pick in a best ball format. He's definitely a guy that's going to have some spike weeks. I mean, they have so many weapons with Kupp and Robinson, and Higbee at tight end will be solid. The running backs will be okay. Akers should, hopefully, if he's 100%, take the next step to get back to where he was last year, which was a late first-round pick before the injury. I think he definitely is a good, best ball pick. He definitely is an injury away from being probably 5-6 rounds earlier, if not. And he's 100% healthy. There was reports that came out this week that he wasn't healthy last year, and he still had a pretty solid season for, what it was. That can only go up, especially if Matthew Stafford, year 2 in the offense. The Rams could be scary this year. They're by far, in my opinion, the NFC favorite.
Tyler Allgeier, Ferrell, we've been talking about this guy even before the NFL draft. We saw the piece come out today about, I don't know what beat writer it was for the Falcons, saying that he has a good shot to be the starting running back. I would imagine that that's going to bump his ADP up until training camp. But what do you make of Allgeier here in the 13th round for Overzet squad?
I think the guys fell asleep and let Overzet get him. I look at a team here that already had Singletary, and they then pick up the clone McKissick. And I love both those running backs, but I would like to have some differentiation in the skill set and the utility of the players. And, so I think I think Tyler gets more touches in the rushing mix there in Atlanta. So consequently, I would have preferred him over the other two guys, which I think are situational backs and third down backs. So, Overzet slid into something very nicely there.
All right. So did I go through I went through the 13th round here. The last thing I'll mention, and Terp, I'll throw this to you. We talked about Antonio Gibson, and I think Jared Smolla was talking about what a value he is in fantasy drafts right now. I think he tweeted that out either yesterday or today. And obviously they drafted Brian Robinson, but JD McKissick goes to Jason Petropoulos here. What do you make of McKissick this year, knowing that he'll never be the guy in our nation's capital, but he will catch a lot of passes there, and this is full PPR for running backs?
He definitely will never be the guy, but clearly they love him. They brought him back. They paid him some money. And for whatever reason, they don't like Antonio Gibson. People saying he's a value right now. I love the player. I just hate the fit. Brian Robinson, they drafted him. He's a big guy, probably going to be the goal line guy. I mean, you don't know. I mean, Carson Wentz is obviously still a question. So there's so many questions in Washington right now. Antonio Gibson in the 5th round is too rich for me. I would rather take a shot on a McKissick in this type of format than draft Gibson in the 5th round.
Well, I really like what this team 8 is doing, though, especially after they went quarterback and after they went Gibson. And then we've been talking about stacks all night, and this is a favorite one for me, Gallup and Tolbert down here. Especially once Gallup returns healthy, I really like what those two wide receivers can do. No one's really talking about the CeeDee Lamb, the other receivers that are in that offense, and I love it.
And Tony Pollard. So you got 3 guys.
I think they all benefit from having such an excellent quarterback and such a vibrant offense. But man, oh man, those are guys at the double-digit rounds that can flirt with 60 and 800, perhaps up to 1,000 yards receiving. It's just a very good draft for Team 8 with what they've done at the receiver position.
Michael Gallup's a great value in the 12th round, especially with so much unknown. Is he going to be ready for the season? Is he not? If he misses a couple games, I mean, he's the clear number 2 with no more Amari Cooper. To get a guy that realistically, if he was healthy, probably goes, where does Michael Gallup go if he's 100%?
Yeah.
You could probably say he goes up in the St. Brown, Godwin, Juju, Elijah Moore area, maybe?
Right around there, I would say.
I don't think it's crazy. Maybe even higher.
I was going to say 5th round, and you're talking about guys who normally go in like the early 6th, late 5th. So I think that seems about right for Gallup.
He's worth the risk in this format. He'll always be worth the risk.
Hindsight's 20/20, but I wonder what Julio Fuentes would have done, or what he was thinking if he would have known the Cowboys he could get here. Pollard in the 8th, Michael Gallup in the 12th, Jalen Tolbert in the 13th. He took Kyler Murray in the 6th. Maybe he grabs somebody else there Or maybe he takes Kareem Hunt in the 6th, and then instead of taking Kareem Hunt in the 7th, he grabs Dak Prescott, and now you have this uber Cowboy stack there too, which I think would be very, very interesting for fantasy purposes. Let's talk about the 14th round here and round this up, guys. Brian Harris takes Devontae Parker, his 4th straight receiver. Joshua Palmer going to Patrick and McDowell, followed by Deshaun Watson, the 3rd quarterback taken by Josh and Laura Durham from the 10 slot tonight. Jameson Williams to John Hansen. Mark Ingram off the board to Julio Fuentes. And then we get a trio of quarterbacks here. Trevor Lawrence to Peter Overzet, which got some applause from the YouTube chat room saying that was a good deal for Trevor Lawrence there at the 7th spot here in the 14th round. Daniel Jones to Mike Zuka. Zach Wilson to Jason Petropoulos to back up Patrick Mahomes. Marlon Mack goes to Michael Apt. Golden Sack, the former Football Guys overall Players Championship champion. Tyrion Davis-Price goes to Todd Burroughs. And then you have Mecole Hardman to Parenzuela and Hanstein. And then Matt Ryan is the 3rd consecutive quarterback drafted by Huseyin Aksu. After not taking a quarterback in the first 11 rounds, he has gone Tua Tagovailoa, Jameis Winston, and now Matt Ryan. Ferrell, what do you do with Deshaun Watson, knowing everything that we've talked about on our show, knowing everything that is facing him, knowing everything that he's got past and everything that's behind him now? Deshaun Watson, the 3rd quarterback for Josh and Laura Durham here in the 10 spot. What do you do with Watson in best ball drafts?
With Deshaun Watson, well, this team doesn't do anything else with quarterback. And, he's too tempting to have that player there. They spent a lot of draft capital on quarterbacks. If they were targeting him, then I probably would have searched for a tight end where I drafted Carr. Because, Watson's going to be available. This is about where he goes. They could have gone another round early to get him. He's a great player to have on this team, but they're way too heavy in quarterback where they don't necessarily need to be. Oh, I just like what they did there, though.
Yeah, I know you like Alec Pierce for sure. It seems like you like. So, Ferrell, I know you like Alec Pierce. You like Michael Pittman. Do you like Matt Ryan this year then as well?
Oh, sure. And he's just a big bargain. I don't want to play him in any other format other than this. And in a lot of the leagues that we drafted earlier, he's on the waiver wire if you need a quarterback.
Let's get to the 15th round here. After Aksu got 3 straight quarterbacks, he gets Khalil Herbert as running back here in the 15th round. Ryan Tannehill, the 3rd quarterback chosen by Parenzuela and Hanstein. DJ Chark to Todd Burroughs. And then Gus Edwards, the Baltimore Ravens running back, to Michael Apt. Logan Thomas to Jason Petropoulos. Brevin Jordan is the selection by Mike Zuka here in the 15th round. Deontay Foreman goes to Peter Overzet. Carson Wentz goes to Julio Fuentes. George Pickens taken by John Hansen. Then you have Jamal Williams and Darrell Williams, the Williams brothers, not related, off the board here as Jamal goes to Josh and Laura Durham. Darrell goes to Patrick and McDowell. Davis Mills completes the 15th round here as the 2nd quarterback taken by Brian Harris. The thing I wanted to ask you, Terp, here as I look at the 15th round, and I lost my spot here. Oh, Terp, I know what I was going to ask you. I'm seeing more and more teams draft 3 quarterbacks in this format. If you don't take a Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, one of those guys, are you looking for 3 quarterbacks in your team construction?
It depends on who. Like he just talked about, he just talked about Deshaun Watson. To me, it's just a complete wasted pick. Ugh. Let's just say eight rounds, or they get suspended 8 games, hypothetically.
Okay.
What's the best he's going to give you? Is he really outscored Derek Carr and Lamar Jackson to get you that many more points to be relevant? He's not. So to me, it's just, this guy's had a very, very good draft. I love the Evan Ingram pick, Hunter Henry, but Deshaun Watson just really killed the flow a little bit. He did pick it up with 2 solid picks afterwards. But like Tua, we talked about Jameis Winston, Matt Ryan. In my opinion, you got to draft a 4th. I don't like doing it, but who do you have confidence in there? Matt Ryan is probably the guy I have the most confidence in.
Right.
Out of the 3.
Ferrell, we have talked a lot about Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. The one Lions receiver we haven't chatted and rapped about was Todd Burroughs' pick here in the 15th round at the 15:03 and DJ Chark. What does he bring to the table for not only Burros here as a late round best ball pick, but for anybody drafting in the FFPC, anybody drafting in the KFFSC Draft Masters as a late round pick.
It sounds like a cop out, and maybe it is, but I'm steering clear of all Detroit Lions, with the exception of Mr. Swift. I've even soured a bit on Hawkinson. I'm not a big believer in the quarterback. I'm not a big believer in the style of football that they play there. However, they have some games which they do flash and they do compete in. But I think we're in the 15th round. Sure, if you like that, that's fine with me. But I'm not. This is probably my least favorite team for fantasy contributors outside of Swift.
16th round, almost complete. Let's go through it, everybody. Brian Harris taking Nico Collins to lead things off. Sammy Watkins, the new Green Bay Packer, going to Patrick and McDowell. Alec Pierce, you heard Ferrell already comment on that, to Josh and Laura Durham. Brian Robinson, another rookie, to John Hansen. Just looking at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Am I seeing this right, guys? 7 rookies on John Hansen's team. We're going to have to talk about that in a little bit. Matt Breida to Julio Fuentes. Baker Mayfield, Terp's favorite quarterback, going to Peter Overzet. Jared Goff, the third quarterback chosen by Mike Zuka. Mo Alley Cox, the third tight end, taken by Jason Petropoulos from BrotoFantasy.com. Corey Davis to Michael Apt. Robbie Anderson to Todd Burroughs. Kendrick Bourne to Parenzuela and Hanstein. And then Kyle Rudolph completing round 16 to Huseyin Aksu from the Fantasy Couch, fantasycouch.com. Ferrell, we heard the report earlier today from a Tampa beat writer. Rudolph might occupy the majority of the Gronk role here in Tampa. How does that change things for you? Does it change things, or is this just something you say here in late July if you're a beat reporter?
Late July talk, but we can stand by what we said about Rudolph Friday night and last night. I would want to get him on my team at where he's being chosen here just because of his elite red zone skills, but he's going to be my third tight end in this format.
Terp, the first pick of the 16th round tonight was Nico Collins. We already talked about the bad news for John Mechie, and hopefully he gets better soon with the leukemia diagnosis he received. How does that affect Nico Collins for you on your draft boards this year, knowing that Mechie will probably miss the majority, if not all, of the 2022 season for the Texans?
It only enhances me because I love Nico Collins. He's my third overall highest owned receiver so far. I just thought he was just way underlooked. I mean, did he have a spectacular rookie season? No. But you're banking on Brandon Cooks obviously being the star, which, I mean, he deserves that. Jordan is an unknown tight end who I do like. And then the guy coming off a bad injury, from Alabama, Michi, obviously just terrible news we heard the other day. I just feel like you can do no wrong with him where he's being drafted. I thought he would go higher personally. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, who else is there? Who else is there that has any worry I mean, obviously somebody might emerge and somebody might, come out of nowhere like there is every year. But Davis Mills is not a terrible quarterback. Mm-hmm. And to me, Nico Collins, the value where you're getting him, you can really do no wrong with it. He's the best pick in that round by a good margin.
Guys, Bonky, I want to weigh in there on two of the Houston Texans that Dave Terp is speaking of. I really, I'm a big Brevin Jordan fan. I like it maybe more than you do, Terp, and I think that's a fantastic.
No, I mean he's a outstanding value where he's going.
But if you're
all
team
it takes
12
is one good
here,
preseason game for him to get moved up.
That's true.
Team 12 here. If you're going to go early in quarterback, this is exactly what you do. Davis
1,000%
with Josh Allen. That is a fantastic move. And if they take another quarterback, I'd have to look at the list, but that might be enough. But yeah, that's good.
And you get a cheap stack for free.
Yeah, that's a nice looking team there.
Terp, Ferrell and I talked about this last night. What do you make of going elite tight end and elite quarterback early in the pros versus Joes as far as your success? Is that something
tough.
You would advocate?
It's really difficult. It's not something I'd recommend doing. I think it's one or the other. If you're going to start off and go like an Andrews and then a Josh Allen 2 rounds later, depending on your roster construction, I just think you're way behind the 8 ball to where you're just trying to scramble a little bit too much. You're not as free flowing in your draft. I feel like it's one. Like if you're going to start, we go back to team 7. He started off with Kelsey. He got his running back, and then he could pretty much do whatever he wanted.
Right.
And while, some of us might not agree with his running back room looks way better than it did a half hour ago. All he needs is one of those guys. And Swift to be what Swift is, what most people think he's going to be, to me, through 15 or 17 rounds now, Team 7's hands down the best team.
And that's the other thing we should bring up too, is like we look at the ceiling for Pete Overzet's team, and it's certainly very high. But the other thing to keep in mind is DeAndre Swift is not exactly a guy, and I know he's talked with his coaches about this offseason. He's not exactly been a guy who's played through injuries, right?
1,000%, yeah.
And the thing is with Swift, like in order for this to work out for Overzet, we're all just assuming Swift and Kelsey are going to crush it.
Correct.
Well, Kelsey's entering his age 33 season, and Swift has not played through injuries in the past. So this is like, we have to assume in order for this team to be the first place squad, those guys have to hit. And if they don't, it's going to put a lot of added pressure on James Cook, on Ronald Jones, on Darrell Henderson, on Tyler Allgeier. And I don't know if you can sustain that over the course of a 17-week season if those guys don't hit. Now, if they do hit, he's looking pretty good right now. Guys, let's go through, before we go through round 17, let's talk about John Hansen's team. Ferrell, I'll throw it to you. When you have drafted best ball squads before in the FFPC, have you ever been this rookie-centric as John Hansen has been tonight? Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, Sky Moore, Damian Pierce, Jahan Dotson, Jamison Williams, George Pickens, Brian Robinson, all these rookies on this squad represent a lot of upside, but they also represent a low floor as well.
Well, he's going to live with them. John came in here and he accepted the invite. He didn't spend any money on this team. So, he's drafting like a guy that was invited here, and he's not here for a long time, but damn, he's here for a good time. And he doesn't have to manage this team. And these are all exciting players. And he let us off tonight as a great guest. So go get them, John. There's still some rookies to have out there.
And by the way, Alex Polanco Jr. also chiming in on the YouTube chat, Ferrell. He says the biggest winner with the Mechie news is indeed Brevin Jordan. He is locked in step with you as we go to round 17. Speaking of rookies, a few of them went this round. Hassan Haskins to Huseyin Aksu from Fantasy Couch. Zamir White to Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein. Jerick McKinnon off the board to Todd Burroughs, followed by a bunch of receivers. Marvin Jones to Michael App. Curtis Samuel goes to Jason Petropoulos. Jamison Crowder is the selection for Michael Zuka, followed by another rookie out of Kentucky, Ferrell. Wandale Robinson to Peter Overzet. Cameron Brate is the third tight end selected by Julio Fuentes. Sony Michel after that, followed by David Bell, the recently pupped David Bell by the Cleveland Browns, going to Josh and Laura Durham. Taysom Hill, the tight end in New Orleans, going to Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell. And then Chris Evans completing things with Brian Harris, the final pick of the 17th round. Terp, what do you make of Chris Evans this year? Because we have seen his ADP move significantly ahead of Samaje Perine, who I believe was just recently pupped by the Cincinnati Bengals. Captain America, Chris Evans, getting a lot of love. Farrell and I talked about him last night. What say you about Chris Evans this year?
He should be getting all the positive press right now. He's better. I mean, he could easily be standalone value. I mean, he is a talented kid. I think he's going to get plenty of pass game work. Perine, in my opinion, will get phased out very quickly. And when you're talking about handcuffs and you're talking about lottery tickets, I can't imagine a better lottery ticket right now in the 17th round on an offense like the Cincinnati Bengals than Chris Evans.
Over the last couple of weeks, I've actually been regretting my Perine shares. I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm getting this guy this cheap. And then I realized, everybody's picking Evans. That's why I'm getting him so cheap. Ferrell, I've heard the argument by not just one, but several fantasy pros out there. And I shouldn't have put pros in parentheses. They're pros. They know what they're doing. But the argument for Deshaun Watson when he was at Clemson and focusing on Hunter Renfrow, could David Bell be the Hunter Renfrow for Deshaun Watson in Cleveland this year?
I don't know. Bell's got to get on the field. Bell's got to play faster than his time speed. There's been a lot of questions ever since they blew the whistle on Purdue's last football game. There's just been a lot of questions about this player. So, thank God we have a preseason, and that's what I'll be trying to determine about Bell. But he's not on any of any of my menus towards success. But speaking of menus, the Homestead on our Burks versus Woods, that would be a good selection. Turp.
Whatever you want. I don't plan on losing it, so I'm not worried about it.
They serve. Has Burks even been drafted yet?
Yeah, he's been selected.
Doesn't matter when he's drafted.
Going the selected process. Yeah,
not worried about it.
I like you buying into the rookie. I like you buying into the rookie wide receiver.
He was my favorite receiver coming out.
We're going to have to keep this wagering thing going. I kind of like that. So
makes things interesting.
It does make things interesting. Treylon Burks off the board at the 10:02 tonight.
What?
He was the 4th receiver drafted by Curtis
That's a
Patrick
gift.
from RotoViz and Ryan McDowell from Dynasty League Football. That's where Treylon Burks went.
And I love rookie wide receivers, guys. I truly love the potential of rookie wide receivers. They're not all CD Lamb. That's all I'm saying.
Terp, Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein, the drafters, the Bombers, the FFPC Joe's drafting at the 2 spot tonight. They ended up starting off their draft pretty strong. We talked about it earlier, 2 receivers and then 3 running backs. What do you make of them having 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends through the first 15 rounds of the draft? Is that something that can work here?
In my opinion, if it was me, the Tannehill pick's kind of a wasted pick.
Okay.
The 3 tight ends, they kind of did it out of necessity. They didn't have any, so they're just drafting, just like Team 1 did with quarterbacks. They're taking 3 guys and hoping one of them, 1.5 maybe, emerge to where they're a consistent weekly guy for them that can, catch that gap up that they're losing against other teams. I'd be 100% fine with, if I'm getting Hurts and Fields, they're 2 of my highest owned quarterbacks so far, especially Fields, to take them and run with it. They just present so much rushing upside. Fields with a new coaching staff. I mean, he looked awful last year, but I really, really am I'm higher on the Bears than most people, especially Mooney, especially Komet. Target shares there. People talk about it all the time. It's a broken record on the internet right now. But the Tannehill pick is not for me.
I can tell you I am not high on the Bears for 3 reasons. 1, I don't think their offense is good. 2, they are the rivals of my Green Bay Packers. And 3, I cannot get behind these orange helmets they introduced today.
That's fair. That's
not
fair.
a fan. Not a fan of the orange helmets.
I'm still waiting for you to tell me who's going to be the leading receiver in Green Bay.
I don't
because I don't see it.
Turp, if I knew, I would let you know. You'd be the first.
Everybody keeps saying Alan Lazard. Like Alan Lazard's going to be going against
that is the
corners now.
That is the money
I don't see
right now. That's the money right now.
Everybody keeps saying it. I don't see it. I like the guys that nobody, the Dubs, the Amari Rodgers.
Okay,
lottery tickets on them.
You guys ready for a hot take here? I'll give you a hot take.
You love
Romeo Dubs. Romeo Dubs.
You're coming with that.
Romeo Dubs outscores Christian Watson for fantasy this year.
I have a bet Christian Watson versus Drake London this year, so I hope not. But I'm a little regretting the bet, just a tad. But
it's well. I mean, I'm in the throes of the shadows of Lambeau Field here in Northeast Wisconsin, and I have heard this on a national level. I've heard it on a local level. People love themselves some Romeo Dubs. So and he is, and say what you will about Christian Watson, much higher ceiling than Dubs, but Dubs is the more pro-ready receiver. It wouldn't shock me at all if all of a sudden.
Question is, does Aaron Rodgers love him? That's
really it does. Well, yeah. I mean, the thing is that there's 2 receivers he loves right now. Randall Cobb, he has an insane man crush with, and I think that's why. Listen, I'll tell you this: we're always following Aaron Rodgers' girlfriends and fiancés and whatever. And he can't seem to keep him. And I think it's because Randall Cobb keeps popping up in his life. That's how much he loves Randall Cobb.
That could be a hot take.
And that could be hot take. I know he likes Alan Lazard as well. So we'll see what happens there. But the thing is, Turp, like at this point, I don't think anybody's a league winner in that Packers passing game, unless you count Aaron Jones. He could be a league winner this year. 18th round, guys. Let's get through it here. We'll kick things off with Dearness Johnson to Brian Harris. Isaiah McKenzie, the receiver in Buffalo, goes to McDowell and Patrick there. Greg Dulcich, 3rd tight end drafted by Josh and Laura Dern. Terrace Marshall from Carolina goes to John Hansen. Trey Sermon off the board. The San Francisco 49ers running back to Julio Fuentes. Trey McBride, rookie tight end in Arizona, goes to Peter Overzet. Raheem Mostert to Mike Zuka. Kenyon Drake Another running back goes to Jason Petropoulos. Paris Campbell out of Indianapolis goes to Michael App. Tyler Conklin, tight end, third tight end drafted by Todd Burroughs. Donovan Peoples-Jones, DPJ to the PVJ Bombers, Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein, and then Marcus Mariota, the fourth quarterback drafted by Huseyin Aksu. Is that overkill, Ferrell? 4 quarterbacks in this format?
Yeah. I think I'm higher on his quarterbacks than Terp is, but the fourth one didn't need to go off the board.
Not that fourth one.
My favorite players in this round are Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'll always have a soft spot for Mostert. Your prior question about Watson, Peoples-Jones would be my answer. And the rookie tight ends here, McBride and Dulich. I like those players. It just depends how quickly they can get into step in that offense. So, yeah.
I feel like the curve with rookie tight ends are just – you keep hearing about Albert O's falling and keeps going down draft boards. I just don't see any of these rookies. Look at Kyle Pitts last year. He had a good season. But where he was drafted, I know these guys are 17th, 18th round picks, but in an offense with Russell Wilson, I don't know.
Freiermuth was a very successful rookie tight end, and that is an outlier. That is
an outlier when you look at it overall. Remember those two tight ends in New England drafted a couple of years ago? Devin.
Oh my word!
Can't think of his last name.
Well, but that's the New England draft. But yeah,
and they drafted somebody else like the next round, and everybody was like, "All right, breakout tight ends." I think they caught one pass all season.
No, they never even got those players. Never even got started. These players have a different resume, but
both talented kids.
But, we're dealing with a 17-week season, and we want some players stepping up towards the end of the year. This, his other tight ends are Hunter Henry, a little long in the tooth as far as players go, and you said you like Ingram. I like Ingram's potential, but you talk about a guy who hasn't cashed in. Now you think he's escaping the New York Giants, and man,
he's coming to Doug Peterson, who loves his tight ends.
Say it again.
He's got with a new coach and Doug Peterson, who loves his tight ends.
I agree with that. I don't know if he's going to love one in the land of Gators. I don't know if he's going to love one with the alligator arms of Evan Ingram, but we'll see.
I love a lot of Jacksonville Jaguars this year. It worries me just a little bit because of the Jaguars, but. I mean,
I drafted one of these, our $125 never too early best balls. I drafted it, and I stacked 5 Raiders and 6 Jags, and it's fun to look.
You didn't sleep that night.
What were you thinking? No,
you woke up the next morning like cold sweats. What happened?
Exactly.
Clearly, this wasn't my team. I drafted someone else in this draft. Guys, the 19th round is completed. Julio Jones off the board here tonight to Huseyin Aksu from Fantasy Couch. Randall Cobb to Parenzuela and Hanstein. Zay Jones is the pick here for Team 3 tonight. That's Todd Burroughs. James Washington, the new receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. Off the board to Michael App. Jeff Wilson going to Jason Petropoulos, followed by KJ Hamler to Michael Zuka. Peter Overzet takes Laviska Shenault. Couple of tight ends off the board. Julio Fuentes takes Adam Troutman. John Hansen takes Jonnu Smith. Jonnu Smith, I think, exceeding the age limit for John Hansen on his squad this year, but to each their own. Eno Benjamin off the board here to Josh and Laura Durham. Curtis Patrick from RotoViz. Ryan McDowell from Dynasty League Football take William Fuller. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is the last pick of the 19th round to Brian Harris, the FFPC Joe. Terp, everybody's excited about Treylon Burks and Robert Woods. Is there value in an FFPC best ball for Westbrook-Ikhine, a guy who has flashed before in the past?
Had a really nice puff piece today too.
Oh, he did. I did not see that.
He had a nice puff piece. I read that he was the most consistent receiver so far early in camp.
So are you buying into that as a late round best ball pick?
As a 19th round pick, he definitely brings upside. He's
definitely could
be. You don't know. Robert Woods coming back from the injury. Burks, he clearly had some issues early in camp. Now he's coming back. He's a rookie. They drafted him high. They have a lot of capital in him, but still the unknowns there. He has the rapport with Tannehill. Why not?
Ferrell, Laviska Shenault goes here tonight as Peter Overzet's pick on another receiver here after he hammered the receivers early. He was supposed to be so awesome for Jacksonville. That didn't happen. Doug Peterson is there now. Is that enough to unlock Shenault as a signed off Ferrell Elliott stamped sleeper in the 19th round?
Oh, no, that's the one Jacksonville Jag I didn't take. And, I was a little bit on the fence for him. And now that Pete's taking him, I'm just, no, Norris not going to do it. But no, seriously.
You might have a picture of his wall of Shenault.
Shenault is, I like some of these other receivers, including Hamler a little better. I agree completely with Dave Turk on Westbrook Hakeem. You can't say anything about Shenault other than he's got the opportunities. He's got an unusual physicality. There's a lot of great offensive weapons now at Jacksonville, and the quarterback's going to play better. And, it might be going forward with guys that have a future there and still looking back in Jacksonville.
Also, good picks with Julio and Fuller. They're 19th round picks. They could be starters very quickly.
Yeah, Terp, how do you handle guys like that who aren't signed here coming up in late July? What do you do?
You have to take some shots, especially in these drafts.
Even in a best ball where you can't cut these guys?
You can't cut them, but the upside, they could easily, if Will Fuller or Julio Jones goes to Green Bay, they could be the number one receiver. Okay. Where are you going to get that opportunity in the 19th round? They go to Baltimore, they could be the number 2 receiver behind Bateman. Very easily. We can go down the list. If they go to Houston right now, not that either one will, but if either of them go to Houston right now, who's really standing in their way besides Brandon Cooks?
If they went to the Green Bay Packers, Turk.
Which, they're both pretty. Will Fuller definitely has more talent. Julio Jones is more dusty, but
now, Terp, here's the question. If Julio Jones or Will Fuller goes to Green Bay, does that mean Watkins gets cut?
I don't even know why Watkins is still on the team.
Okay, so yes. Yes is the answer there.
Keep Watkins for the first week. He's going to go for like 40 fantasy points.
But then you got to
everybody's going to go nuts.
Yeah, no. You got to get. Here's the thing. That's fine for fantasy. If Green Bay keeps him for week 1, his contract's guaranteed.
Well,
Green Bay's not cutting
all that stuff.
They're going to keep him around.
I think Watkins makes the team. I don't think
easy.
I don't think Rodgers is going to go with a bunch of rookies. I think Watson or Dubs or one of those guys are probably going to open the season on, PUP or whatever, or on the, practice squad, possibly, if they make it through. Not Watson, obviously, but definitely Dubs. If Watkins is healthy and he's not hamstrung or one of his other 100 injuries that he has his whole career, he probably will be on the roster.
All right, so Terp, last thing I want to ask you here. Big difference in Tim Patrick and KJ Hamler tonight. Most people, and according to the data in Fantasy Mojo, the top 2 Denver Broncos receivers are Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. Tim Patrick goes in the 11th tonight to Todd Burroughs. KJ Hamler doesn't go until the 19th round tonight to Mike Zuka. Is that too big of a disparity between those receivers, or are you betting on a big year from Tim Patrick and Russell Wilson?
I don't think so. I think Tim Patrick's the perfect number 3 receiver for Denver. It's really hard not to like what he brings.
But for fantasy value between the two here, Patrick and Hamler, because Patrick, I don't even know where he was drafted, but Hamler was a 2nd-round pick 2 years ago.
Yeah, Hamler dedefinitely has the big play potential. I just think they have enough big play potential on that team. Is he ever going to play over Cortland Sutton? Is he ever going to play over Jeudy? I know Judy's hated by a lot of people, but I just don't see a guy who's coming off 2 major injuries. Yeah, he might flash here and there, but he could be obsolete really quickly. I'm not a Hamler guy, but in the 19th round, the 20th round, in this type of format, it's a lightning in the bottle that's worth taking. But I don't think the disparity is. I think it's clearly should be.
Guys, that is a wrap on tonight's draft. Just to run you through the 20th round, Velus Jones at the 2001, CJ Uzomah to Curtis Patrick and Ryan McDowell, followed by Tyler Batty, and then back-to-back Steelers quarterbacks here. Kenny Pickett goes before Mitch Trubisky, who goes with the very next pick. After that, Trubisky going to Julio Fuentes, Tommy Tremble, AJ Green, Devin Duvernay, the Baltimore Ravens receiver, goes off the board here with the 5th to last pick. That was to Jason Petropoulos,
That's
Quez
a great
Watkins
pick.
in Philadelphia, Terps guy. That completes a run of 5 straight receivers for Michael App. Desmond Ridder, the rookie quarterback out of Atlanta, and then Rob Gronkowski, the obligatory Rob Gronkowski pick. We can't get away from it. Doesn't matter. He could be retired for 4 years. He could be inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's still going to be drafted in the FFPC Pros versus Joes at some point. The penultimate pick tonight for Roy Parenzuela and Corey Hanstein. And then the final pick, Mr. Irrelevant, is indeed Tyquan Thornton, the rookie receiver for the New England Patriots, to Fantasy Couch's Huseyin Aksu. Final thoughts on tonight's draft, gentlemen. I know it's a broad question. Do you have any thoughts on your favorite team, worst team, favorite pick when you look at this, worst pick when you look at this, anything that stood out to you, anything that surprised you? Terp, I'm going to throw this to you first. Do you have any thoughts here of if these viewers that were watching this broadcast live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, if they take away one thing from tonight's draft, what should it be?
Draft like Team 7.
Team 7, Peter Overzet. Fantasy Life, Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. Love the picks. Went elite tight end early, elite running back early, pounded the receivers, and then pounded the running backs, and then peppered in some quarterbacks and tight ends at the end. Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence, Baker Mayfield, Trey McBride, Tommy Tremble, along with Travis Kelce. Ferrell, do you agree with that assertion by Terp there?
You know what? He got very lucky, because I don't necessarily think those his run of running backs, I can see the potential for his second running back to emerge from that group. So yes, I think he's very lucky. I'm a little, and Terp seems to be a passionate champion of Justin Fields. I'm a little surprised.
I wouldn't say passionate champion.
Well, you said, hey, well, you said something positive about him, and that moves the meter as passionate champion here, because I'm just not hearing a lot.
It's a great stack to own right now. Great
about
stack.
Justin Fields. So that's probably one of my least favorite picks in this draft. But these guys know what they're doing. These guys come in here with a plan, and we look at everyone that's involved in this. You can tell they've done a great deal of work.
Extremely talented guys.
Yeah,
they understand
Pros
the team.
and Joes, both of them.
They've got a wise idea of who the players are. You look at this last round, the last 3 rounds, Terp's right on it. I mean, these guys can step up and be the guys for you. So yeah, there's not a lot of dead picks on this board.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you for hopping aboard tonight. You certainly made my job very easy. I think you entertained the masses tonight. Well, I know you entertained the masses much more than I did. I appreciate all your insight, all your picks. Terp, we will follow you on Twitter at Dave Terp. Ferrell, we will check out the KFFSC at kffsc.com. And we are going to, and Terp, I'm going to send you the link to the broadcast tomorrow. Hopefully you can join, but we start once again an hour later. We're going to go on at 10 Eastern tomorrow. I hope you guys can both make it.
I'll be there.
All right. Terp is there. Ferrell, you're going to be there?
Have a good night, guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Dave Tripoli and Ferrell Elliott, ladies and gentlemen, the definitive commissioner of fantasy football and the definitive critic of fantasy football. I guess that's Terp's new nickname on the program, which I like quite a bit. I want to thank tonight's guests, ladies and gentlemen, John Hansen, the fantasy guru. Listen to him on SiriusXM Fantasy Football mornings from 6 until 10 a.m. Eastern. Of course, Dave Tripoli, who we talked to, Todd Burroughs, the Run to Daylight podcast, and of course, Peter Overzet from Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. Remember, the High Stakes Fantasy Footballer normally airs on Friday nights right on this FFPC YouTube channel at 10/9 Central. We also air live on Twitter and Facebook, and obviously on-demand streaming via audio and video listing, basically wherever you get your audio podcast and video podcast the next day, and at hsffhour.com as well. So if this is the first time you're checking us out, we appreciate it. We do this show year-round, hour-long, 10/9 Central on Fridays. I want to thank all our drafters tonight. Was tremendous. We are going to be back tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern time. The Joes tomorrow, Rashad Cobb, who you heard on these airwaves just a few months ago. Former guest of the show, Shelly Fossum, also drafting for the FFPC Joes tomorrow. Jason Steves, another former guest of the show. Justin Baker and John Brock, the FFPC Joe tandem, picking from the 7 spot tomorrow. Liz Ballard, who I think I can break this right now, she will be Friday night's guest on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour talking about this squad. She is drafting tomorrow and from the 9 spot. The final Joes are Chris and Alan Chapman picking from the 11. The pros tomorrow, we're going to have Matt Schauf from DraftSharks.com. Ben Gretsch and Sean Siegel from Stealing Signals and RotoViz, respectively, will be drafting tomorrow. Establish the Run is going to have another entrant. It's Jack Miller. He's going to be selecting tomorrow. The 33rd team's Josh Larkey will be on the program. Jeff Mans, GuruElite.com, and, of course, Drew Davenport from Football Guys, all drafting tomorrow. That is quite the lineup of Joes. It is also quite the lineup of pros. It's going to be a fun one tomorrow. Don't miss it. 10 p.m. Eastern time. Main event early draft slot deadline is coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We are about 4 hours away from that. Remember to get in on that. Once your team is paid for in full by midnight Pacific time tonight, you're going to get your early draft slot by August 1st. So whether you're drafting in mid-August, late August, early September, you're going to have plenty of time to prep for your FFPC main event quest for a $1 million industry record grand prize. Main event slow drafts. If you don't want to wait for your draft slots, you can draft them right now. We got those off and running. Multiple Football Guys drafts filling up each and every day at myffpc.com. We have 2 separate best ball tournaments. The FFPC best ball tournament, $125 to enter, $200,000 grand prize. The Superflex best ball tournament, $35 to enter, $10,000 grand prize as well. If you want to play in Dynasty, we've never had a league fold. We got over 1,000 of them, and we continue to fill up Dynasty startups each and every day at myffpc.com. If you are like the Pros versus Joes drafters and you just want to compete in a closed 12-team league like this, you can do that in Best Ball, Classic, Varsity, Terminator, Superflex, whatever format you want at myffpc.com. And of course, the Kentucky Fantasy Football State Championship main event, the Run to Daylight Championship, taking on all comers at kffsc.com. You can compete against me there, and hopefully we get Terp in one of those drafts too this year as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening and watching. We really appreciate it. Your week officially continues right now.
This has been another episode of the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour presented by myffpc.com. It was broadcast live and was watched around the world. Balky and Ferrell will be back next week with more analysis, more interviews, and more advice from guests much smarter than they are. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk with you again next week.
One other thing I should mention tonight, I came from my son's rookie league baseball game. They lost in the championship last year. Proud to say they won in the semifinals this year, 11-4. They will be participating in the championship game for the second straight year, this time as the 1 seed on Wednesday night. Very excited for that. Now I have to do a little post-production on this podcast, watch the latest episode of Better Call Saul, and of course, I have to watch with an eagle eye Silver Linings Playbook. I got to rewatch that and see if I can find Dave Tripoli in there. Very excited to see that. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll talk to you at 10/9 Central tomorrow right here on the FFPC YouTube channel.